Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Cassandra Terry, your manifesting miracle maker, and it is Transformation Tuesday. How are you guys feeling this morning? Are you ready for to do what it takes for transformation? That's what we'll be talking about this morning. Transformation is simply change, moving from where you are to where you would like to be. And in order to get comfortable or to deal with transformation, in order to deal with transformation, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'll give you guys minutes, come in. I see folks are joining, and we're going to jump right in and focus on being comfortable with being uncomfortable. All right. I have been reading and I've been sharing more and more of the things that I read with you guys. And I'm going through an audio book right now that I absolutely love. And it's called Why Has No One Ever Told Me This? Why has nobody told me this before? Let me get it right. Why has nobody told me this before? And the author is Dr. Julie Smith. And when I'm walking or have some quiet time, I tend to put her audio book on, and I'm just about finished. And I have gotten so many useful nuggets for myself from that book. And I thought I would share it with you. So I don't know if you're a reader who likes the paper, so you need a book in your hand, or if you're good with audiobooks, you can play them in your car, you can play them when you're working out or walking, doing your dishes, whatever the case may be. Pop your headphones on and let the book do its thing and just kind of tune in and listen to an audiobook is a great way to multitask. Um, so I wanted to share that book with you. Why has nobody told me this before? By Dr. Julie Smith. I've shared it with my family, my sisters, my kids, a couple of folks, and I really highly recommend it. It's a different approach on mindset. Some of it I agree with, some of it I don't, and that's one of the things that. Let me say this: when you're introduced to something new or a different point of view, listen to it for what it has to offer. It's rare that I agree with 100% of what anybody says. Um, Past, present, or future, most likely. But just because I don't 100% agree does not mean that there's not something of value that I can take from it. Even if the value is just reaffirming what I believe versus what they believe, there's value. And as a nation, we've gotten so far away from critical thinking and healthy debate and being able to discuss things that are not, discuss things with people who don't see things exactly the way we do. We are so bent on right or wrong, my way versus your way, that we miss the opportunity to learn from one another. So everything in her book I didn't agree with in its entirety, but a good majority of it was gold. I got so many nuggets from it. And so I just thought I'd share that with you guys, and then we'll take some points from what I did learn from her and kind of talk through that today. I'm not looking at my screen, so if you're there, if you're watching, go ahead and leave a comment so that I can see when I jump back over that you're there. If you catch this later, please hashtag replay so that I know that you joined in. Leave a comment and I'll get back as soon as I can, and I'll reply to your comments. So let's talk about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Our brains are programmed to move us away from discomfort. It means we immediately believe that there's something wrong, right? And so you want to get away from that feeling. You want to get away from the fact that you're thinking that something is not wrong. So, but discomfort is a feeling. And we are so much more than just feelings. And it's natural when we come up against something that doesn't seem right, that makes us uncomfortable. One of three things happen. There's some natural responses, and you can read about this. You can just, you can Google and read more about it. But we have the natural, depending on how we're dispositioned, or depending on just how uncomfortable we are, we have the first thought is to either fight the situation, fight the individual, whatever the case may be, protect ourselves. So we fight, or we flight, we run away from the situation, we try to avoid it, we want to step away, or we freeze. We become so overwhelmed with our thoughts and our fears that we're not really able to do anything. So those are absolutely natural responses to discomfort or fear, or difficult situations. We want to fight them, we want to run from them, or flight, or we freeze, and we're just not able to cope or deal at all. I used to be an extreme freezer. And what I mean by that is when I was in a situation where I had no control, I would faint. I would literally freeze in every aspect. I was still breathing, that was still going on, but consciously, I would leave the building. I would get so anxious and so overworked and undone that I would lose consciousness. It would mostly happen in medical situations. If somebody was in extreme pain, if even birth, that was the first. My family still laughs at me today. One of my siblings was having her first baby, I believe, and I was in the room, and she's having the baby, and next thing you know, you hear metal flying because I have passed out, and there's surgical instruments flying everywhere, and the nurse is trying to make sure I'm okay, and I'm like, no, don't worry about me, just take care of my sister. So I mean, that's flight in the ultimate sense, because my I would physically leave consciousness. And it's also freezing. I would be so overwhelmed that I couldn't do anything, and I would eventually just black out. I was holding my breath, and I didn't realize that until much later in life, that my natural response to being really, really stressed is to hold my breath. And so eventually, if you do that, you're gonna lose consciousness. So thank God that I'm not as bad as I used to be. I still get those really anxious feelings, and the brain is racing and can't really function well in high stress situations like that. But I've gotten through every one of my grandchildren being born. I was in the room for each occasion. The last one, I cut the cord. So your girl is making progress and able to push through. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about. When you're feeling discomfort, if at that moment you stop and you back away, you never improve. You will always be uncomfortable in that situation, and you just prolong that feeling of discomfort and your inability to do or to be in that environment that causes that discomfort. There's only one real way to get better, and that's to go through it. We are so programmed to, as soon as we start to feel discomfort, to step away, or to go into that fighting mode or that freezing mode, that we don't allow the feeling to actually be. We don't experience it. Our expectations of what it is often way worse than what it actually is. But feelings come and go, and Dr. Julie Smith talked about it like a wave, that if we would allow that feeling to wash over us like a wave, waves come and they go, and you're left standing. And the next time the wave comes and it goes, you're left standing. And eventually, the situation becomes much less of an anxious, discomfortable, uncomfortable situation. And you get to the point to where it's something that you can deal with. Even if it never becomes a joyous situation, something that you really want to do, it's something that you're at least able to get through. But if you run away every time, or if you fight the emotions, or you try to push them down and don't allow yourself to experience them, you never get to that point to where you can successfully maneuver whatever it is that's causing you all of that discomfort. So, avoidance is not the answer. Don't avoid your feelings. Don't avoid the situation. Figure out how you can get through it. Okay. So, one of the ways that you can practice And ease discomfort is to, she gave an example that I thought was really good. She said to think about things that really cause you that discomfort. Come up with one thing. Um, she said one of the things she said, which was a little painful for me, but it's probably true, is that, positive affirmations are thinking it, you're not going to think your way through it. You're not going to be so positive that the anxiety goes away. You actually have to allow those emotions to come. Can't push them down, can't suppress them, can't avoid them, can't run away from them, can't fight them. You actually have to feel them. And in feeling them, you'll start to build up the resistance and the ability to work through, right? And so, one of the things that she said as an exercise that I wanted to share with you guys today is to choose something that causes you a lot of anxiety, something that you really hate to do. You avoid it like everything. If you can get away with not doing it, you won't. So I'll give you an example, and I hope that throughout your day to day, you kind of think about what that thing might be, and then you can take my example and use it to break your situation down so that you can start to walk through that discomfort and build up some resistance and some resilience in that space. So I'm going to use public speaking as an example. It's something that I've done in some form or fashion my entire life. I remember being a little girl and we got our Easter speeches. And so we would get up every Easter Sunday, recite our speeches, and I would be so nervous. But I did it because for whatever reason, I was pulled to this thing, just like I'm sitting here talking to you guys right now. I'm pulled to it, but it also would cause me a lot of anxiety. There was a time when I was being interviewed on a radio show years ago. I am in the comfort of my own room. I am actually, I think, sitting on my bed, and I'm on the phone, a landline back then, I think, and I'm talking to the radio host, and my husband was downstairs. And I was so anxious, so nervous that I was fighting for breath. Every word took work because I could barely breathe. And so he could hear it from listening to it on the radio downstairs. And he came upstairs and he just put a hand on me and was like, "You're fine." And then after a couple of minutes, I would get comfortable and the breathing would return to normal and I would kind of get into my groove and I would be okay. I experienced that almost every time I would have to speak. That shortness of breath, the brain just kind of shutting down for the first few seconds, and then I would forget about how I was feeling and kind of get into whatever it was I was talking about, ease in, and then I would be okay. But those first couple seconds were always super traumatic for me because it felt like I could not breathe. So public speaking was something that I never saw myself being able to be good at because I just couldn't get comfortable enough and I couldn't breathe. So, how are you going to talk if you can't breathe? And so, I just knew that I had to push through those first couple of minutes because they were always difficult. Fast forward to today, I don't really have that experience anymore. But getting on a big stage and speaking publicly is the ultimate goal. I want to be a keynote speaker at a big conference. There's a conference in Austin, the Texas Women's Conference, that comes every year. And one of my favorite speakers was on the stage this past year. And I was up close and personal. My job had sponsored some tables, and we were right there listening to Brene Brown, who I love to her work. And usually I've met her before, I've seen her speak before, and I usually was always just mesmerized. Still mesmerized, still love the work. But I remember this time thinking, if I could just have that microphone just for a few minutes, I have so much that I want to say, so much that I would love to share with these women. That's a big jump from I can't breathe for the first couple of minutes to Brene Brown, who I think is a wonderful public speaker and has so much good to say, wanting to take the microphone from her or to be up there with her and sharing just like she was sharing. I literally could see myself on that stage with the microphone speaking. And one day I'm going to be there. And I don't think it'll be one day in the not too distant future, I see myself there. It's a personal goal to be a keynote speaker at the Texas Women's Conference. How did I move from being afraid to speak to wanting to be in a conference where I'm center stage for hundreds of professional women? I started small. About a year or so ago, I started blogging, and the difference in what was coming up for me when I was blogging was a lot of fear. What if people don't like what I say? What if I get a lot of hateful comments? What if I have friends and family show up and go, who does she think she is? Why does she think people need to listen to her? The brain started to spin and all these things started to go in my head. But I felt so drawn to write that first post that I just did it. And the comments that came back were just the opposite. I got a lot of support, a lot of love, a lot of accolades, a lot of people saying, good job. Felt great. After that, I had people saying, you know, I like your articles, but I wish I could hear them. So I went from just typing and pushing submit from my laptop to actually recording my voice and attaching that to each blog so that if people wanted to, they could hear it on Spotify. After that, I started to video record, and I would just record myself reading the blog, and I was uploading that to YouTube. So do you see how step by step I'm getting a little bit closer to that ultimate goal? And as I do each one of these things, the fear and the anxiety is subsiding because I'm retraining my brain to understand that doing this is not something that's unsafe. I may feel some discomfort each time I take the next step because I'm appearing more, putting more of myself out there. But the discomfort is not that bad because I've got all these steps leading up to that that's telling me that I'm ready for the next step. First, I wrote it. Then I just, did the audio. And then my face was attached to it as I was doing the video of me basically reading what I had written. And that's what I put to YouTube for quite a while. And then I started doing pre-recorded videos. And with each pre-recorded video, I would have a topic. I would sit in my office just like I'm doing right now, say what I had to say to the camera, and then upload that to all the different social media sites. Did that for quite a while. Then I started going live like we are today. And that for some reason was tough. I had all kinds of uncomfortable thoughts. What if no one shows up? What if I forget what I'm talking about, or the camera starts to go, I'm rolling and people are watching and I have nothing to say, I just go blank. All those fear conversations started to spin in my head again. But I had like, well, you sit down and you blog and you record and you do this and you do that, so you'll be okay if you go live. And if you forget, you go blank, just say, I forgot, I went blank. And I had to start to talk to myself in a positive way so that I could do it. And I also joined a live challenge. There's a lady, Lisa Hayen, Jamie Hayden, who Hayen, Hayen is her last name, Jamie. She has this live called, that's about getting in front of the camera. And she talks about being fearful of going live. And she just does like a 4-day challenge, Monday through Thursday. And every day she teaches you something different about going live. And you get to practice it live in her group. So it's just people who are going through the same thing as you, learning and putting themselves out there. And so one of the things I'll say about fear is preparation, education, practice, whatever it is. Those things are great to offset fear, because the more prepared you feel, then the more likely you are to be able to just take that next step. Now, I don't want you to use preparation as a reason to not take the step where you just prepare and prepare and prepare, but you never do it. But it does help ease the anxiety when you know that you know your stuff, right? So going through that 4-day challenge with her, I went live the very next day, which was a Friday, and I've been live every day, Monday through Friday since. It just I ripped the Band-Aid off, and I've just been going. So you guys see me every morning at 7 a.m., except for Thursdays when I'm at noon. And that's because I'm taking baby steps, right? One of the other things that I've been doing that's helped is hosting vision board parties. During those parties, I get up and I speak and I share my thoughts on mindset, just like I do with you guys. I talk to them about goal setting, and then I lead them through creating their vision board parties. Those are fairly small groups. A lot of times it's people that I know. Sometimes there's a few in that I don't, but it's a fairly comfortable, intimate situation. So it helped me to get comfortable being in the front of a room and just kind of going and talking and interacting with a group of people. Another small step. And then from there I started getting invitations to some small events, and I've done quite a few now, and they're getting bigger and bigger. And now I'm in situations where I'm presenting at different groups and meetings and things like that, and presenting. So I'm not just talking like I do on my live most of the time, just kind of go, but I actually have a presentation prepared, and I have to click through and I have to say the right things at the right time as I'm moving through these slides. And I've got a virtual conference coming up next Wednesday, the 8th. And that will be the biggest event yet. It's virtual, so I've got the comfort of my room, the same room that I'm in right now, talking into a laptop, but I've got a presentation, I've got to deliver it. I have a set amount of time, and I have to nail that presentation because there's a lot of opportunities that I believe that will come from that. What's next? Some keynote address. It's not on the calendar yet, but I know that all these little things that have happened, the steps that I've taken along the way are leading me up to a keynote address, and then eventually to the Texas Women's Conference. And so I go through all of that to say that you want to take that thing that you really fear, take it and break it down into small steps, right? Don't I would have it would not have been wise for me to accept a keynote address and be on stage with hundreds of people looking at me day one, right? So doing the blog, doing the videos, going live with you guys. You guys are helping me hone my craft and live my dream and prepare to do the thing that I believe I was born to do. I believe that. And so every day when you show up, every time that you interact, every time you are moving me closer to what I believe is my God given gift and something that I'm supposed to share with the world before I leave this world. So I'm grateful for you guys every time you show up because you're helping me prepare for that ultimate keynote address. So today was preparation. I actually had some things, some points that were important that I wanted to share with you. I wanted to give the examples. And so I'm putting the more structure in place where before I just pushed go and I would just talk. And there's nothing wrong with that. I will continue to do that. But sometimes when I've read something like the book I shared with you guys at the top of the hour, there's real key points that I want to make sure that I give you out of that book. So this gives me the opportunity to practice, and not just practice, but to become who I believe God created me to be. And you all are a part of that journey. So I see Cliff is on. Thank you for being a part of my journey, Cliff. Karen, you've been a part of my journey since birth. Thank you for being here. Hey, Siobhan, you know you're going to always be Bridget to me, girl. That's my niece, y'all. And she shows up every morning and gives her support, just like her mom, Kimberly. And I see my daughter, Sierra, is on. Welcome. And thank you guys all so much for joining. This week, what I've decided, and I mentioned it yesterday, is the focus is going to be on how. The days of the week, Monday through Friday, I've been coming on probably for a couple of months now at least, and sharing Mindset Monday, Transformation Tuesday, Wake Up Wednesday when we talk about being intentional, Thankful Thursday, we talk about gratitude, and Focus Friday. So every week we rotate through those topics based on the day of the week. But this week, I want to make sure that I'm giving you some resources. I'm giving you some hows, excuse me, giving you some ways to actually lean into that thing and have some techniques or tools or some sort of a resource to help you get there. So today's how for Transformation Thursday is to figure out that thing that you're really anxious about or really fearful of, that thing that you avoid. You know, sometimes you have to do it, but you're going to put it off. You'd rather not. What is that thing for you? Identify that and then go break it down. Actually, doing it is the ultimate, but keep peeling it back into small steps that'll get you there, and start to take those steps and see yourself build up the resilience, build up the confidence so that you're able to one day do that thing that causes you so much anxiety. So just like everything else, just like our goals, we break them down into bite-sized pieces and then we start to eat. We take one bite at a time, and before you know it, we've eaten the whole thing. And that's the goal. We want to live a life that's full. We want to live a life that we enjoy, and we don't want fear and anxiety to get in the way of us experiencing the fullness of the life that we've been blessed with. All right. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you for tuning in to Transformation Tuesday. If you catch this on replay, hashtag replay, feel free to go ahead and drop your message. I promise I'll get back to it later in the day and respond. And for those of you that are here, thank you again for being a part of my journey as I transform into being who it is that I have been created to be. And my prayer for each of you is that you do the same, that when you run up against those things that you run away from or you feel like you have to fight through, instead of doing that, allow yourself to feel it and then break it down into actionable steps, and one step at a time, remove that anxiety and go for it and live your life to the fullest. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Happy, thankful, not thankful Thursday. It's only Tuesday. Happy Transformation Tuesday. I will see you guys tomorrow, 7 a.m. Central for Wake Up Wednesday. Bye-bye.